The rabbi will probably send a notice out about what time no cold nidre, what time and everything else. I imagine Rabbi Wolf will.
Well, I'm gonna see him Thursday. We're gonna learn Talmud, so I'll talk to him then.
Right. He's got to let everyone else know too.
Yeah, but I just don't know if I'll be functional Saturday.
Welcome to the Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time around. This class meets in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Okay. So that was a good place to stop. I have to add it into the notes. So what we said last week in a nutshell, Hashem told Abraham, Lech Lecha me'aretzecha, go forth for yourself, from your land, from your birth, and from the house of your father. Until Abraham arrived, settled in the land of Israel, the interaction between Ze'er Anpin and Atzilus, Ze'er Anpin and Nukva in Atzilus was what we call an immature or undeveloped relationship, meaning that the intellectual aspect of the relationship was missing. We're talking about a relationship. Between Ze'er Anpin and Nukva, we'll talk about it a lot. We compare it to a relationship between man and woman, between interaction between man and woman, between intimacy, because there are many parallels, and the reason why procreation occurs the way it does, is because it produces life, procreates, and it emulates creation. So creation happens between this interaction of Ze'er Anpin and Nukva, and just like in a relationship, people can relate only on an emotional level. People can be intimate, and while they're connecting only through an emotional level, relationship is very different when they relate on an intellectual plane as well. I mentioned last week that I always thought that when we speak about relating on an intellectual level, it means that you both can discuss the same intellectual issues. Okay, they both work in the same field. They're both biologists. They're both scientists. They're both in education, and they can relate intellectually as well. But now I think it's more than that. It can be, they can be able to discuss and agree intellectually on their views of different issues. Not in an emotional level, but in let's say the social issues, the political issues, that intellectually they are in harmony with each other. Last week I mentioned something else where they understand each other very well and know if she knows if she discusses the socks that are under the bed, he's going to blow a gasket. So she doesn't say anything, or she handles it in a tactful manner. So if you understand the other person real well, and you know how to avoid certain issues, you know how to approach certain issues, how to broach certain issues, where there is a strong trust between the two, that one can correct the other, without one getting upset. Okay, so this can be, perhaps this is an intellectual, a relationship that's also on an intellectual plane. In the same way, this intellectual component was missing from the relationship, from the interaction between Zeir Anpin and Nukva. And until Avraham arrived in Canaan, which means that the interaction was lacking. It wasn't a full relationship. Perhaps, I'm not sure, but we might see that this is referred to as a interaction that occurs back to back and not face to face. So we have talked about that. I think last week he talked about like a house a home where the parents are overwhelmed, they're busy, and the house is kind of running on autopilot for a few days or for a week, hopefully not more. So too, the interaction between Zeir Anpin and Nukva it's there, but it's at its most basic level. It's not a what's the word? A prime relationship. It's not
not mature.
It's not mature, but not
Optimum.
optimal. Thank you. I'm saying optical, optional. It's not an optimal relationship. It's not the way it's supposed to be. So, that's when Avraham arrived in Canaan. So we have a rule that Avira Deretz Yisrael Machkim, the air itself, Israel makes one wise. Wise is the intellect. It means when Avram arrived in the land of Canaan, he was able to poke a hole and in that barrier, and he was able to initiate this flow or this connection between Zeir Anpin and the intellect, Chachma, Bina, and Das, and he got that started, and that's why at that point, this became a component of the relationship. The intellect became a component of the relationship and interaction between Zeir Anpin and Nukva. That's what we did last week, and today we're going to continue on that. Any thoughts, you guys? Share screen. You had time to think of it over this week. Okay, I think we're over here. We're gonna write September. We're gonna move to the middle. Okay. 8. The course of the year, interaction occurs at different levels. For example, on Rosh Chodesh, interaction occurs at Netzach. On Rosh Hashanah, it occurs at Gevura. Who knew? In history, interaction also occurred at different levels. Avraham personified Chesed. Interaction occurred with Chachma, which is aligned with Chesed, on the right. Hashem said, "I'll make you a great nation," meaning only Chesed will be great. We're going to have a lot today how Avram personifies Chesed, something we're going to repeat a lot. The great nation, great is a euphemism. It's a word for Chesed, because benevolence, the property of benevolence, that it wants to give. It wants to give a lot without limit. That's the idea of great. Great means many or a lot. We'll go back to the Sephardic tree on 60. On the right side, we have, in the intellect, we have Chachma, and below that, in the emotions, we have Chesed and Netzach. In the left axis, on the left, we have in the intellect Bina, and below that, Gvura and Hod in the emotions. So there is an alignment there between Chachma and Chesed, Netzach, and also Bina, Gvura, and Hod. And likewise for the middle, Das, Tiferes, and number 9, Yesod. So let's continue. Thank you, Alan, for keeping us on the right place. And now we will read Alan, page 61. Now, as we explained.
Now, as we've explained in Sh'ar HaTefilas, in Tefillah, the coupling of Zir Anpin and Nukva that occurs on Rosh Chodesh is only at the level of Netzach. That which occurs on Rosh Hashanah is only at the level of Gevurah. And similarly, with regard to the other festivals, each one being different from the next. It was similar in the days of the patriarchs. Just as between the Partsufim throughout the cycle of the year, so too there was a progression in the level and type of Sephardic coupling that occurred parallel to the development of Hashem consciousness in the patriarchal family. For in Abraham's time, the principal maturation of intellect occurred in the brain of Chachma, which is juxtaposed to Chesed, which is personified by Abraham. Therefore, all the supernal coupling that occurred in this time was only in a manner of Chesed. This is the mystical meaning of the statement, I will make you into a great nation. That is only you, Chesed, for the maturation, that is becoming great, occurred in his times only in the brain of Chachma. Afterwards, the time of Yitzchak, the brain of Bina matured. For it is
Hold on, number 9.
Okay.
Yitzchak personified Gvura. I'm sorry. Yitzchak personified Gvura on the left side near Bina. Interaction at the time of Yitzchak occurred through Gvura. Okay, go ahead.
Afterwards, in the time of Yitzchak, the brain of Bina matured, for it is on the left axis juxtaposed to Gevurah, which is personified by Yitzchak. Therefore, all the supernal coupling that occurred in his time was only in a manner of Gevurah.
Thank you. Number 10, Yaakov personified Tiferes in the middle with Das. Das completes the development of intellect, which now was complete. Chachma from Avraham, Bina from Yitzchak, and Das from Yaakov. In contrast to Avram and Yitzchak, who bore unworthy sons, all of Yaakov's children were unified in their belief in Hashem. Regarding Yaakov, it is written, his bed is whole. This can refer to the development of all intellect in his time. I will explain that. The Torah says at the end of Yaakov's life, he was sick, he called for Yosef. Yosef arrived and Yaakov bowed to the head of the bed. Torah says that Yaakov bowed towards or on the head of the bed. What is the head of the bed? Rashi gets a few explanations. One is that that the Shechina is at the head of a sick person's bed. So he's actually bowing to the Shechina. And also, I'm being that Yosef was a king. He showed Yosef the honor to him. But all it says, he bowed. The word on the head of the bed in Hebrew also means for, about. He bowed about the head of his bed. What's the head of his bed? Head of his bed refers that his bed was complete. He bowed to thank Hashem that that all of his children were worthy. You probably all know the story that when Yaakov called for his children at the end of his life, and he said to them, do you all stand with me in my faith of Hashem? And they said, Shema Yisrael, listen here, Israel. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem, our God, Hashem Echad. Hashem is one. In other words, yes, Dad, we all stand with you, alongside you in your belief in Hashem. And Yaakov was so happy that he responded, Baruch Shem Kavod Machosali Olam V'ad, which simply translated means, wow, Baruch Hashem, thank you. So that is the meaning of Rosh Hamita, then the Rosh Hamita, that the head of the bed, mitaso shlema, his bed was complete. All his children stood with him in belief in Hashem. So here we use it to mean something else. Here we're going to understand the bed is whole, meaning that with Yaakov, the intellect was above, was the development of intellect was complete. Chachma from Avraham, Bina from Yitzhak, and now Das from Yaakov is complete. Okay, so now you can read the next.
Finally, in the time of Yaakov, the brain of Das was rectified, and then all three brains were fully mature, and there was complete coupling and reproduction. This is the mystical meaning of our sage's statement that Yaakov's bed was perfect, meaning that the supernal coupling that occurred in his time was a complete expression of all three aspects of the intellect. Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Yitzchak. Yitzchak was worthy to become one of the forefathers of the Jewish people, but Ishmael was not. He personified a fallen version of his father's chesed. This false chesed is the desire to please other people for egocentric ends or excessive indulgence in the delights of the world. Similarly, Yitzchak had two sons, Esav and Yaakov. Yaakov was worthy to continue the line, but Esav personified a fallen version of Yitzchak's Gevurah. This fallen Gevurah is the propensity toward violence and murder. In contrast, all of Yaakov's sons were considered worthy to carry on the line and serve as ancestors of the Jewish people. This is the simple meaning of the sage's statement that his bed was perfect. Kabbalistically, Abraham and Yitzchak produced unworthy offspring because of their own psychological imbalances. These imbalances did not imply any error on their part. They each personified necessary stages in the development of the idea of the Jewish people, but their consequences were nonetheless such as they were.
Okay. Interesting, and this is important for us to refer to, is that where Avraham was chesed, chesed has a negative component. Well, chesed by itself is good, but there's a possibility for with benevolence, kindness, with giving too much. So where it could be that a person overeats, eats without limit. He talks about indulgence, someone who engages in indulgences or forbidden indulgences. This is, I guess, chesed of klipa, and it's personified by Yishmael. The gvura of Yitzchak is a good thing, but there is a gvura of klipa, and that is the tendency towards anger, violence, murder. The Rome is a descendant. We consider Rome the descendants of Esav, and Rome's big thing was their army and the violence that they had. The Arabs, the descendants of Ishmael, are largely there's indulgence there. In a few weeks, we're going to finish the Torah, where it says that Hashem, before he went to Har Sinai, he checked with the other nations, and he said to Yishmael, "I have a Torah, I have a gift." And they said, "What is your gift about?" And he says, "Not to commit adultery." And they said, "That's not for us." It came to Esav. the nation of Esav. He said, I have a gift. They said, what's in there? He said, not to commit murder. They said, how can we live if we can't commit murder? That's not for us. I should double check. I think that was Ishmael's. Ishmael made up a different one. But in any case, these are klipa aspects of chesed and of gvura. There is a klipa aspect of tiferes too, I'm sure. But in any case, with Yaakov, everything was in harmony. There was a good balance of chesed and gvura, and there was nothing negative that came out of that. Alan, I forgot to ask you if it's big enough.
It wasn't, I would have told you.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Number 11. Well, you remind me every week, you ask me to make the part bigger, so here it is, bigger. Number 11. There are two reasons the letter Hey was added to Abraham's name. We said before, number 4, that Abraham's original name, Avram, stands for Yesod and Malchus. The first 3 letters, Aver, means the limb or organ. That would be the Yesod. And the closed Mem refers to Malchus. In Abraham's time, Ze'er Anpin began to develop a connection with intellect, which is filtered through the lower third of Bina. The Hey added to Avram's name is the first Hey of Hashem's name Havaya, which stands for Bina. Okay, I'm sorry. 2 reasons why Avram got a Hey. First reason is because of Bina. Yud K Vav K, the second letter of Hashem's name is Hey. It stands for Bina, corresponds to Bina. And now that the intellect began to develop in Avram's time, so a Hey for Bina was added to his name. That is the first reason. Jim, please continue 62 near the bottom. We will now explain.
We will now explain why the letter Hey was added to Abraham's name and not to Isaac or Jacob's name. This letter was added to Abraham's name for 2 reasons. First, Ze'er Anpin originally possessed no intellect, and it is known that its intellect is first clothed in the Netzach Hod Yesod of Ima, identified with the first Hey of the name Havaya. So before Ima can transfer intellect to Ze'er Anpin, intellect must be contracted, must be dimmed, so that it can be vested in Ze'er Anpin. It is thus funneled through the sub-Sifirot of Netzach Hod Yesod of Ima, whose function is to contract the mentality of Ima in order to transfer it further. Therefore, the name Abraham, having here referred to Ze'er Anpin, initially is missing the letter Hey and only possesses the letters Aleph, Beit, Resh, and Mem, signifying the 2 Sephirot of Yesod, Ze'er Anpin, and of Nukva, as we explained, but is unable to couple in a face-to-face manner. After its intellect matures, after, that is, it received from Ima the first Hey of the name Havaya, signifying Ima is added, as we explained.
Okay, thank you. The second reason for the letter Hey in Avram's name is so first one is Hey for Bina, for the second letter of Hashem's name. Second, as Das develops, the 5 states of Chesed in Ze'er Anpin also develop. And when the 5 states of Chesed, as we said, are the Chesed within Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, and Hod. The letter Hey added to Avram's name is for the 5 states of Chesed that enhance the interaction between Ze'er Anpin and Nukva. This is the second reason for the Hey added to Avraham's name. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Secondly, the seminal drop of coupling derives from the states of Chesed that issue from the brain of Das. Thus, when Ze'er Anpin's intellect matured, and it acquired the brain of Das. It was given these 5 states of chesed that produce the seminal drops. This is the second mystical significance of the added He. Of the 3 brains of intellect, Das is the subjective intellect, or the ability of the mind to apply abstract comprehension to real life, to make it relevant. It is thus the focal nexus between intellect and emotion, where intellect translates into emotional response. Since Das is thus the progenitor of the emotions, it contains within it the potentials for these emotions. These potentials are the 5 states of Chesed and the 5 states of Gevurah within Das. Respectively, the forces of attraction and repulsion to an idea that is applied to reality. Chesed and Gevurah are the primary emotions, which give rise to all the others. There are 5 states of each because there are 5 emotions of content. So it's Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, and Hod. Yesod is a coalescence of the 5 emotions that preceded. As was explained previously, the seminal drop of self-actualization is produced by Zer Anpin's love of Nukva, the appreciation for the rectification of reality accomplished by being fruitful and multiplying one's divine self through reality, and the essential role played by the female in this process will bring the individual to appreciate, to be attracted to, and to love the female. We thus give 2 reasons for the addition of the He in Avram's name.
Yeah, hold on. Let me fix that.
Given instead of give.
Yeah, given. Okay, so exactly what this relationship is, I'm not 100% clear, but you see how that Das is what somehow connects with the 5 states of Chesed and probably also with the 5 states of Gvura. And what my question is, before the intellect is developed that we're talking about, what is with these 5 states of Chesed and 5 states of Gvura? I guess they're malfunctioning. They're not working optimally. I'm not clear on that. So, but in any case, that's less important. What is important is that the He of Avram's name is for the 5 states of Chesed.
Mhm.
5 states of Chesed that are affected, magnified, developed through the intellect becoming mature.
Mhm.
Okay. Next, we're going to have 13. The breakthrough of Zer Anpin connecting with intellect occurred during Avram's time. Once that was put into motion, and I use the word breakthrough intentionally, once that breakthrough happened, once that process was put in motion, what occurred in the time of Yitzchak and Yaakov was like automatically followed, was expected. So the real breakthrough was by Avraham. So the He was only added to Avraham's name, not to Yitzchak or Yaakov. Okay, and Jim, can you read that at the bottom of 63?
From this explanation, it will be understood why and no additional He was added to Isaac or Jacob's name. Since any process is determined by its initial manifestation and the maturation of intellect necessary for coupling alluded to by the addition of the letter He was already alluded to in Abraham's name, it was no longer necessary to allude to it in Isaac or Jacob's name. As
Yeah, okay,
As
go
a-
ahead.
Yeah, as explained previously, Abraham refers to the maturation of Chachma of Zeranpin, Isaac to the maturation of Bina of Zeranpin, and Jacob to the maturation of Das of Zeranpin.
Okay, basically the big breakthrough happened with Abraham. Now with the others. Okay, now we're going to give a second reason. So far we had two reasons why the hay. The second reason was the hay is for the 5 states of Chesed because Das is becoming developed and magnified because of the intellect. Now we're going to say that it's like a third reason. Yes, it's for the 5 states of Chesed, but not because Das is being magnified. It's because
Abraham.
let me see what it says. Another connection between Avram and the 5 states of Chesed is that Avram personifies Chesed. Hashem instructs his benevolence. Can also be explained. Yomam Yitzave Hashem Chasto. Instead of Hashem instructs his benevolence, Hashem instructs Chesed to accompany each of the other midos. The first word here, I'm going off script. The first word is Yomam. Yomam literally means daily. Hashem instructs his benevolence. I missed a word. Daily or day by day. But the word Yomam can also mean their day. And that would be that Hashem instructs Chesed to be with each day, to accompany each day. The days are the days of creation. Each day of creation is related to another of the midos, of the spheres. So you can say that Chesed accompanies each of the other midos. Chesed pushes the 5 states of Chesed to be expressed. This is another reason why only Avraham, who personifies Chesed, received an extra letter Hey. Yitzchak and Yaakov, who do not personify Chesed, are not connected with all 5 states of Chesed. Only Avram is connected with all 5 states of Chesed, and I guess he raises them up, he lifts them up, he helps them develop, and therefore the extra Hey belongs to Avraham. So, like the second reason that we had, first reason was Hey for Bina, second letter of Hashem's name. Second reason was that Hey is for the 5 states of Chesed. The third reason also Hey for the 5 states of Chesed. Then the second reason, what? On the chair. The second reason 5 states of Chesed are the 5 states of Chesed are magnified because the intellect is being magnified, or developed because the intellect being developed. Here, just Chesed is connecting to each of the 5 and then uplifting it. 1 second, guys. Alan, you showed me his setup. I know he has a sitter right there. In Nusach Ari, in the Ari sitter that we use, when we begin Ma'ariv, we have a few psukim that we read. Where's that thing? Okay, see? Ma'ariv, V'hu Rachum, Yechaper Avon. Is it backwards or you can see it straight?
I'm looking at the sitters. I don't care what you have.
I have a seer too.
Okay, so yeah, it's only in the Ari sitter.
Yeah.
So in this paragraph right over here, it says, by day the Lord Can't read it. Do you see it straight or backwards?
Yeah, it's straight.
Okay, good. I actually see it backwards.
There's a way to change that.
By day, the Lord ordains his kindness.
Yeah, yeah.
So my point is that next time you daven Ma'ariv, either tonight, if you haven't davened yet, or tomorrow night, you'll see this verse, you'll see this pasuk, and you'll think of how we learned it.
Chesed. Good.
Yomam Yitzava Hashem Chasto. By day, Hashem instructs his kindness. The Lord ordains his kindness. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see that. Don't lose your sitter. I think we'll be using it soon.
Mm-hmm.
Gershon, are you ready?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
64 at the top.
Furthermore, it is now that Abraham, who personified Chesed, is known in the Zohar as the day that accompanies all other days. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me now? The 7 midos correspond to the 7 days of creation. In the phrase, Hashem will command his Chesed by day, oh, you just said that, the word by day is Yomam, which can be translated their day. Chesed is thus seen as the day, or midah, that accompanies all other days. This means simply that Chesed is the fundamental emotion, the basis of all the others. Love or caring is what engenders all other emotions. For a person who does not care about another person or thing will feel no emotions toward it, positive or negative. He is the one that transfers the 5 states of Chesed to the mouth of Ima. Although Das and Bina are separate brains, the abstract intellect of Ima also possesses latent, innate tendencies toward emotional response. Thus, Das is referred to in the Zohar as being present in the mouth of Ima, poised to be expressed as emotions through speech. Okay, now I'm looking at some pictures of Sephiros, and Das is a little below in the middle between Bina and Chochmah. So, all right. Therefore, the 5 steps of Chesed of Das are alluded to in his name by the letter He, whose numerical value is 5, and not in the names of Isaac or Jacob. Since Isaac and Jacob allude to Geburah and Tiferes, which do not fulfill this role.
Okay. Thank you very much. What I wrote here in 14 is the meat of what he just explained there.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to go to Sarah's name. That was the Avraham and with his original name, and then after the Hay was added. 15. The name Elokim receives from Havai. Actually, a couple things we have here is in my message that I sent out last Friday morning. If you guys read my message, so you would have seen some of this over there for the word shofar. The word shofar has a shin at the beginning, a resh at the end, and Sarah's name has a sin and a resh also. The name Elokim, spelled Aleph, Lamed, and then a Hey, Yud and Mem, receives from Havaya, and therefore it is considered Nukva, the feminine principle. Sarah's name, Sin Resh Hey, corresponds to Elokim. First, the value of the expanded spelling of Elokim is 300. Shin, the first letter of Sarah's name. Shin is 300, and the expanded spelling is Aleph is 111, Lamed 74, Hey with Hey Yud 15, Yud 20, and Mem 80 for a total of 300. That's the Shin of Sarah's name. So Elokim matches the Shin. Second, the regressive spelling of Elokim is 200, the letter Resh, the second letter of Sarah's name. How is this? If you remember, regressive means the 5 letters plus the first 4 letters plus the first 3 plus the first 2 plus the first. The regressive spelling of Elokim is, I read that. Elokim is 86. Aleph Lamed Hey Yud is 46. Aleph Lamed Hey is 36. Aleph Lamed 31, and Aleph is 1. That's 200. The 5 letters of the name Elohim are for the letter Hey. Sarah's name was changed when Nukva was repaired and she produced Yitzhak. Of course, originally her name was Sarai, and then at the age of 89, Hashem changed her name. Hashem changed her name to Sarah, and so I guess through this whole process, I guess Nukva was repaired as well, and that's what her name represents. And then she produced Yitzhak. Okay, Gershon, go ahead.
We will now explain the name of Sarah, Abraham's wife. She personified the principle of the female alluded to by the divine name Elohim. The name Elohim is considered female relative to the name Habaya, since it acts as the medium for the name Habaya's message. It is known that the numerical value of this name, when it is spelled out with the letter Yud, signifying face-to-face coupling, is 300, corresponding to the Shin of Sarah. The letter Hey can be spelled in various ways. When it is spelled out Hey Yud, and this spelling is used to spell the name Elohim, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem, we have 300. Very simple. Inasmuch as Yud signifies Chochmah, using these letters to spell the Hey in the name Elohim signifies full female consciousness, allowing full face-to-face coupling with the male. Sarah is spelled Shin Resh Hey. The numerical value of these 3 letters are 300, 205, respectively. So that would be 505. The numerical value of the simple regressive spelling of the name Elohim is 200, corresponding to the Resh of Sarah. Elohim is spelled Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem. The regressive spelling out of this name is Das. Aleph, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yud, Mem, 200. The 5 letters that make up the name Elohim are signified by the Hey of Sarah. Therefore, when Nukva was fully rectified and made it fit for coupling, it was called Sarah, and when it coupled with Zerampin, it produced Isaac. We will now once again explain the names Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, for they are all connected.
Okay. So I remembered the numbers. I don't remember all the connections. When we learned this 6 years ago, I remember the numbers. And a couple of years ago when we were in Israel, we were into an event, an activity. The person running the activity told me his name is Yaakov, and he told me the gematria. And then in between the activity with the kids, we were talking, and I explained to him what was significant about Yaakov, and then how about Avraham, and how about Yitzchak, and how about Yosef, which I all happen to remember. And so we had a very interesting discussion, and we still, he's on my list to get my email, to get my message every week. And we just had a little back and forth a few weeks ago also. Nice guy in Yerushalayim. I know after we learned this, Jim was excited, and if I can share, Jim, my son's bar mitzvah was 5 years ago, and Jim wrote him a check that was on the gematria of my son's name, Yosef.
Mm-hmm.
So I see it stuck with you too. Okay.
Yeah.
16. As we said no, we did that. Did we? No, we didn't do this yet.
No.
No, this is new,
Reviewing all the names.
This is new.
because we're going through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph
Right.
now.
As we've said many times, Avram personifies Chesed. Regarding Chesed, it says, Chesed, Kel, Kol Hayom, it's in Tillim. The kindness of Kel is all day.
Mm-hmm.
This pasuk links Chesed with Hashem's name, Kel. There are 8 names of Kel in the faces of Arachanpin. 8 times 31 is 248, the gematria of Avraham. So Avram's 248, and times 8 and times Kel is 248. Why 8? Why 8? Okay, so here we go. The name Kel is mentioned at the beginning of the 13 attributes of mercy. Hashem, Hashem, Kel, Rachum, V'chanun.
Mhm.
And it's also in Slichos in the verse, in a verse mentioned right before Avinu Ashma Kolenu, from the book of Micha. It says, Mi kel kamocha nusei avon vorva pesha lishes nachlaso lo hachazik larapoki chafes chesed. Who is a God like you? And the word kel is used. Who is a kel like you, who pardons iniquity and forgives transgression for the remnant of his heritage? He does not maintain his wrath forever, for he desires to do kindness. He will again show us mercy. He will suppress our iniquities, and you will cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. So, so here too, it shows forgiveness of the sins, just like the 13 attributes of mercy that Hashem overlooks and forgives. Okay, Gershon, go ahead.
Know that the name Abraham personifies the attribute of Chesed, which is signified by the divine name Kel. This being the mystical meaning of the verse. The Chesed of Hashem, Kel, is all day long, as is known. The fact that the name of Hashem used in this verse is Kel indicates that the association of this name with Chesed. Now, there are 8 names Kel in the supernal faces of Arich Ampin. All of these are contained within the name Abraham, whose numerical value is 248, the numerical value of these 8 names. Kel, Aleph Lamed, 31 times 8, 248. Abraham, Aleph Beis, Resh, Hey, Mem, 248.
You probably know that there are also 248
Limbs,
limbs in the body, and
one of those
also
things.
what?
Yeah.
What else?
Not the,
The 3 paragraphs of Shema have 245 words, and we want to get up to 248. So that's why some people say Kel, Melech Neman before they say Shema. And our custom is to repeat the 3 words at the end, Ani Hashem Elokechem or Hashem Elokechem Emes, depending if you're the Chazan or if you are davening alone. So also we get 248 to match Avraham.
to
Okay.
wit. Ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
To wit. It is known that the first rectification of the 13 rectifications of the beard of Arich Ampin is called Kel. This being the mystical significance of the verse, Hashem, Kel, merciful, gracious. And that's from Torah. And of the verse, who is a God, Kel, like you? As we explained, that's also from Micah. Okay, different sources. As we have explained in our exposition on the 13 attributes of mercy recited in the weekday morning prayers. As explained elsewhere, Hashem's 13 attributes of mercy listed in Exodus 34:6 are identified in Kabbalah with the 13 rectifications of the beard of Arich Ampin.
Okay. Next. We did have that later also about the beard and mazel.
Drip,
Okay.
drip, drip.
18. The 13 attributes of mercy are associated with the beard. The 2 names, Kel, just mentioned, are the upper corners of the beard on each side, I guess by the sideburns. Each one has 3 names, Kel, associated with 3 names of Hashem. We have Kel Adni, Kel Shakai, Kel Havaya, and Kel Adni. 3 on each side makes 6, gives us 6 Kel. Okay, Gershon, go ahead.
It is also known that each sideburn contains 3 names Kel. That means the manifestation of this attribute in the 3 lower worlds that issue from this rectification of the beard As we have explained in our commentary on the Idra, okay, from the Zohar, these are Kel Shakai in the world of Berea, Kel Havaya in the world of Yetzira, and Kel Adni in the world of Asiya. Two of these names are found combined this way in the Bible. Kel Shakai is found 6 times. An example of Kel Shakai or Kel Havaya is in Psalms 118:26. And Kel Adni does not appear in the Bible, but is construed based on the other two. Aha. There are thus 6 such names Kel in the 2 sideburns.
Okay, thank you. Now, 19. The name Kale in expanded spelling equals 185. Aleph is 111 and Lamed is 74. Makes 185. The hairless spot on the cheeks stand for the 370 lights. 2 times 185 is 370.
2 cheeks, yeah. Okay.
This is the 7th and 8th names of Cal. And as we said, 8 times 31 is Cal, is 248, the gematria of Avram. The 370 lights is something that's mentioned around, it is mentioned in different places. I don't have a good handle on it. I was once, a few years ago, Hanukkah, I was at my sister's house and there was someone whose father was in a hospital nearby. And this guy himself lives in New York and attends a shir. I think a shir that the same shir that Rudy heard one of the students speak on in Queens, and that's and Rudy, and then you came back and you were just blown away. You said, we got to have a class like that here.
Yeah.
So there's a rabbi in New York, and I think they both attend the same class. Anyway, so I was at the table with this guy, and he started going on about 370 and the letters, Shanayan, and showing all different ways, up, down, sideways, backwards. It was like running circles around. And I wish I remember even one point of what he said, but he spoke about the 370 lights, Shin Ayin, connected with the name Yehoshua, and I don't remember what else. So anyway, so this is a topic that we see in different places. Okay, so Gershon, go ahead.
2 more names Kel in the 7th rectification, which is the lack of hair on the 2 cheeks, known as the 2 holy faces, as we have explained elsewhere, really later. These are the 370 lights that shine from the face of Ari Hampin, corresponding to the 2 spelled out names Kel situated there. Kel, Aleph Lamed. When these 2 letters are spelled out, we have Aleph, Aleph Lamed, Pei, 130 and 80, 111. Oh, it's like blackjack. Lamed, Lamed Mem Dalet, 30 plus 40 plus 4, 74. 111 plus 74, 185. For the 2 names Kel on the 2 cheeks, we have 2 times 185, 370. This yields 8 names Kel, which together equal the numerical value of Abraham. 6 on the 2 sideburns and 2 in the cheeks, and 2 on the 2 cheeks. In our discussion of the 175 years of Abraham's lifetime in Parsha Hayesara, we will explain this at greater length.
Okay.
Cliffhanger.
Huh?
Cliffhanger.
So, yes, okay. So this is as far as I got. Boys, it's 8:31.
Good, good.
So we can pause here.
Okay,
Try
thank
it.
you very much. Thank you so much.
We did do 6 pages today, so with
Yes,
my preparing, we are going faster.
You don't necessarily have to go faster, but that's just my,
just some days we do, some days we don't.
Yeah, but it's
It's okay.
much more with the notes. it's much more coherent and cohesive.
No, your notes are fabulous. I'm just saying that
No, we're not losing anything with the notes.
I have more questions than answers in this class.
Right, right. I have to, sometimes I have to sit with stuff and it broadens as it sits and becomes more and more in focus, less on a purely intellectual plane, but often on a deeper plane. Intellectual as well, but more and more in focus.
I mentioned last week, there's stuff or a few weeks ago when we were doing the new section on Noach at the back of the book.
Mhm.
There's some things there that I'm very confused about. I have a lot of questions. Last week we did pause and we had a wonderful discussion,
Mhm.
and I appreciate that very much. It added an awful lot to the class.
Mhm. Okay, so thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you very much. Should have an easy fast.
Easy fast.
Same to all of you.
Thank you. Gemar Chasima Tova to everybody.
Sima Tova.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Great.
Alan,
Be
feel
well.
better.
Feel better.
Thank you.
Here. Thank you.
Yes, Alan.
Yes.
All right, guys. Good night. Good night.
Good night.